is Jeremy Estes, and you are on the Building Bucket Series Part 1 webinar. We're going to talk about planning and building a segmentation funnel from scratch today. So, before I start doing too much talking, let's do this. Let's make sure everyone can actually hear me. Actually, I have a new headset, and I don't know if it's working or not. So if you can hear me, if you would please, pretty please, in the chat below, let me know just if you can hear me and if you can see my screen here. Yes, thank you, Catherine. Yes, I hear you. Thank you, Mike. I can hear you. Thanks, Jason and Rita, Diane. I appreciate it. Loud and clear. Perfect. Yes, yes. Okay, great. Guys, thank you so much for the feedback. I have done this before, where I talked for about 30 minutes and just didn't think to ask or look. So, anyways, let's jump right into this, guys. We're gonna today. We're trying something new. This is the first time we've done this type of series, and what we thought would be a good idea is to actually walk through and plan out and build a segmentation funnel from scratch with you guys. That way you can see that it's possible to do it and what all can be done, how to go about doing it. And so today we're going to be walking through, like I said, the planning part. We're going to come up with some ideas. To be totally honest and upfront with you guys, I'm going to be cheating a little bit. We've got a funnel that was probably built like 1,000,000 times. And I've got a lot of the scheme for it already. But I think the idea that we're going to be walking through this thing together and building it from scratch, I want you guys to be able to see it in action. So today, like I said, we're going to look at some of the plans, the drawings for it, and some of the thought that goes behind drawing out a segmentation funnel before you go into Bucket and start building it. And then we're going to, like I said, we're just going to dive right in and start working on it. So, if you've never been on one of these calls before, what we'll do is at the end of this call, I'll send you an invitation link to get on a one-on-one call with a Bucket specialist to work on your funnels, your surveys, whatever it is you're doing inside of Bucket. You can get help from someone like myself who's done it 1,000,000 times to help you breeze right through and getting your stuff set up. And it's totally free for you. It's a 15-minute Zoom call. It's not an actual phone call, so you won't have to, be on the phone. It'll be, working with your computer on a Zoom chat, and we'll actually be able to walk through your account together and get you up and running. Super duper fast. And I'll talk to you more about that in a little bit. So, like I said, by the end of this webinar, you'll know how to map out a segmentation funnel. You'll know how to kind of prepare your questions in advance. If we have enough time, we may get into actually building a segmentation funnel. But if not, at the very least, we will be able to walk through and piece this thing together and get the front-end planning done. That's the #1 objective here for me, honestly, guys, is to prepare and get ready to go in and start building. But if we get done quick, I'll start doing some building stuff. We will absolutely do a Q&A. This call is absolutely being recorded as we speak, so I can't mess up too much, hopefully. And I guess everyone's going to know. And then, like I said, we'll build out and get as far as we can. And then, like I said, we're going to do this in a series. So wherever we leave off today, we'll continue with the next one. And then we'll just keep going until we have a picture-perfect funnel up and running and ready to advertise. All right? So you'll be able to walk through that with us. Okay. All right. So why prepare ahead of time? Obviously, we want to make sure you get it right. Right? We don't want to go and just slap something together inside of Bucket, probably a software that you're not too familiar with. We want to make sure we're collecting all the data for our leads that we need, and we're getting them to the right place, so that we've got the best leads possible. This says get the best insights to use later. That was for a survey. What we really want to make sure of, though, is that we're generating the absolute best leads possible and converting those leads at the time of visit, or at the very least preparing ourselves to have like a killer follow-up so we can convert them better through email or market or retargeting, however we do our marketing. So first thing I want to do is I want to jump over to use some mind mapping software or flowchart software or whatever you want to call it. And I've already got the scheme built, but I want to walk you guys through what typically goes into a segmentation funnel scheme build. All right. And so why don't we do that? We're using Lucid Chart here. Is anyone here familiar with Lucid Chart? You guys actually use this already, or do you have a flowchart system that you use? I think with Lucid Chart you can make 3 free ones, and that just means 3 active. So you can delete one if you're not using it anymore and all that. And so it's really interesting. It's real simple to do. So basically, here, let me see if I can zoom out a tad. So can you guys see this? So basically what we're going to do here, and you may have heard of this funnel before, this is the Orchids Made Easy funnel, right? It's a single segmentation funnel where one question determines the multiple outcomes that the customer is going to see based on an answer that they respond to in the quiz, okay? And we're going to walk through planning that and setting that up. And so that's what this funnel is going to be about. So the way that where we always want to start when it comes to mapping out your segmentation funnel is you always want to start with the outcome. Okay, let me jump back over here. So we always want to start at the end and work our way back. Okay, and the reason why is because if we don't put every possible outcome that we plan on, marketing to our customers, if we start at the other side, then we get here, we may figure out, oh man, we should have totally asked this, or we should have added that question in. So we always say, let's start with the outcomes. And what I mean by outcome, if you're not familiar with that verbiage, is like either a specific product that you offer, or a different angle of approaching a single product. So in this case here, in this funnel here, we've got one product. It's their Orchids Made Easy, like membership program for caring for your orchids. And so what we're doing is instead of selling everybody, just trying to get them to buy this membership program, what we've done is we've got several different angles that we use to sell this membership. So in this case here, through extensive surveys and research, this product owner, and I know most of you probably know who it is, his name is Ryan Levesque. He has done extensive research into the buying habits or the specific needs of these people who care for their orchids, right? And so what the outcomes are different angles of selling the same exact product, right? And so what we've got here in this case is we've got our very first outcome is going to be for the people who have issues getting their orchids to bloom again. So that's our first kind of spin on the same product, right? The next one is saving a sick or dying orchid. Like that's another issue that people have. Is just how do I save my sick or dying orchid? So what we're doing is we're selling them into this membership program for caring for your orchids, like A to Z, but we're hitting them on their exact specific issue, okay? And selling them on it based on that being their major issue. The next one is potting or transplanting the orchids. And then the last one is just basically just learning the basics. So what we're doing, like I said, guys, is it's one product, and we're hitting all these different angles so that we get a higher conversion rate. Now, in your case, you might have multiple products, right? If you have different lines, different product lines, or have straight up different offers, then you could use outcome pages to go to each specific offer, Or you could do like we're doing on this example, where we're, again, just attacking the same offer from these different angles. Is the outcome process making sense to you guys? Does this make sense? Diane's asking if I can go full screen for a second. I don't know. I don't think this has like a zoom to width. Oh, does that look better? Is that easier for you guys to see? Okay, good. Well, I'm glad at least it makes sense. So is this actually easier to see? Sweet. All right, then we'll keep it at this. Yeah, it definitely looks better. All right, cool. So we've got our outcomes, right? Now, one thing I want to point out, and this is something optional that we've decided to do for this project, just because I think when we actually get into building, what the idea here is to show you the full suite of options that you have access to in Bucket, right? And that's why we're doing the build from scratch. What I want you to notice is that, so what I did here is I drew out the outcomes. Start there, right? Well, what I decided to do, because part of Bucket, in my opinion, one of the smartest things that we added in was the ability to customize an opt-in page to go with your actual outcome. Because as you're driving this cold traffic to your segmentation funnel, it makes sense to ask for their email address before you make their offer. And almost 9 times out of 10, what you're typically going to want to do is offer some sort of bribe, right, on the front of some marketing collateral, something to get them to say, huh, I think I want to go check this thing out. And a lot of times what you'll want to do is go ahead and get their email address as part of your marketing, right? I mean, it makes sense. And so what we've done here is we've created a lead capture page for every outcome. And I'll show you guys later on how to do that inside of Bucket. So what we decided to do here is I just went ahead and just drew out a lead capture page for each of these offers. So I went ahead and drew this into this mind map software here so that I could easily see, okay, when I'm building this thing out, I'm going to need a lead capture page for each of these outcomes. Is everybody on the same page with me so far? So we'll have an outcome, and then we have a lead capture page that is attached to that outcome. So that once we decide what this person's outcome will be based on what they inserted inside the segmentation funnel, we're also going to give them a customized opt-in screen, which will increase our conversions for the opt-in, which we expect will also increase our conversions when they actually see the final outcome page. So everything's going to be uniform, right? So they tell us their problem. We say, hey, I got a fix. I'm going to email you about that fix. And then, boom, on the outcome page, hey, not only am I going to email you about that fix, guess what? I'm going to sell you something that's so perfect for your specific problem, you're going to need to get it right now. So that's the concept, right? That's the difference of a segmentation funnel versus just a regular, hey, give me your email address and I'll send you this thing. And, oh, hey, by the way, here's my sales pitch, which, that totally works, but imagine how much better it works when you're giving them exactly what they just told you is their problem, right? All right. So now that we've drawn the outcome page and the lead capture page, what we're going to do now is we're going to come up with our questions. We're going to come up with the questions that we need to ask to get the person to the right place, but also to get the absolute best lead information that we can from this person, so that when we do want to follow up with them later on and sell them, either upsell them into our Ascension model, or again, just collect the best amount of lead information that we can so that we can give them a better experience later on. And again, know exactly who's who so that we can follow up with them with better marketing. So in this case, what we've decided to do is ask them just flat out, hey, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to getting your orchid, caring for your orchid? And so what we've done here is we've just put the big challenge. So that's going to be that first question. And then we ask them, what's your age? Because what's been determined through the research, again, and through later, that'll affect our later marketing is getting their age range. Also understanding what orchid varieties they're growing. Again, how does that help later on? Well, if we have a specific offer for specific orchids, we'll have that broken down at the lead level, right? And so that we'll be able to follow them around with certain marketing later on. And then, of course, finding out what their topics of interest are. What Ryan found out and through their research is understanding what topics they're interested in gives them an idea of where we should be pushing them through the email marketing and pushing out content to these people later on down the line. But for the purpose of the segmentation funnel itself and for obtaining the maximum number of conversions on this first visit while they're going through this process, what we're going to do is we're going to make we're going to customize our outcomes based on what happens in this question right here. We kind of colored it green. All right, so when we drew this out, like, you know what, this is the single segmentation funnel. This is where the segmentation is going to occur. All right, and so what you can see what we've done here is, and you can do it any way you want. This is a simple, really straight up way of doing it. Is you just create these, a line basically that says, okay, if you answer one question here, you're going to go to this outcome. And then typically what we'll do is label the line, right? So right here, learning the basics of orchid care. That's going to be one of these questions. Saving my sick or dying orchid. It's going to take them to this outcome. So we just label that line. Same thing over here. We've got one over here for potting or transplanting. And again, learning the basics of orchid care. Looks like I mislabeled this one. I was wondering, I can't believe there's two, but no, this one was for, oops. See? It's another reason you always want to plan getting my orchid to bloom. Good. All right. So see how that's going to actually make this so much easier. If you have it drawn out, I can print this thing out, and while I'm going into, Bucket and actually building, I never lose sight of what needs to be done. Like, I'm not sitting in Bucket trying to figure this stuff out. Because if you've been in Bucket before, it's a new software, right? And so a lot of times, you're looking at something for the first time, and you're like, what do I type in? What do I do? What do I do? Right? And so having it printed out, again, you don't have to even do it in a software like this. I mean, literally, you could go and get some sticky notes, do this exact same thing, make like a bunch of yellow stickies for your outcomes, pick a bunch of blue stickies for the lead captures, and yellow, 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 and another one, right? I mean, you can literally just kind of build it out with sticky notes, or on a whiteboard you could draw it out. It doesn't have to be in a flowchart software like this. I like it because obviously it's easy for me to come on here on a webinar like this and explain how we lay this thing out. So planning out your segmentation funnel. This is pretty much all that goes into it. And then you can see here what we went ahead and done is draw out a welcome page. Because since this one is going to be a completely self-contained segmentation funnel that we'll be marketing out into the world, we're using a welcome page built inside of Bucket as well. So this is how you plan these bad boys out from just the blueprint level. Where I've got a question here. Diane asked, where is the customized opt-in screen? Does it show? Oh, okay. I think you're talking about inside of Bucket itself, Diane. We're going to get to all that, I promise. You're going to see exactly how to build each of these things out. The idea here is just to show you how to kind of plan and map it so that when you do go in and start building, you're not literally last second trying to figure it out. You've looked at it, you've sent it off. You know, if you work with a partner, you guys are able to come up with an idea, and it's ready to go. Because once you do that, you know, I would even say this isn't, you know, you got this, you're ready to go, let's go start building, right? I would even say hold your horses. We actually have a tool for you, and I'm going to give it to you later if anybody wants it, to even kind of set yourself up for even more success. And again, I'm going to show you, you're going to get mad because I am kind of cheating. Like I said, I've played with this thing a million times already, but I think, you know, that way we can kind of, you know, get to the good stuff, right? So what I've also got here is this other kind of, it's a Google Doc tool, and basically it lets us prep our content before we go and start building it out inside of Bucket. I've found that this is buckets load easier to do if you actually do it this way. So what you can see here is that all the information that we're going to need to add into our funnel is over here on this outline. So we've got the name, the welcome page, quiz questions, lead capture, outcome pages, design, header, footer, all that good stuff, right? And so, so what we're going to do is we're going to come here first before we even go into Bucket. And we're going to create a public name, which if you haven't ever built anything in Bucket before, when you see the word public name, you think, oh my gosh, this is what people are going to see. And so you're trying to come up with a clever name for it. But here is my promise to you. That public name is just public for you to see throughout Bucket and maybe Zapier if you're using it, or other integrations. Your users do not see this public name. So come up with something that you will instantly recognize the second you look at it in your segmentation list. Let me go back. Let me actually drop out of here. See where I've got 48 segmentation funnels in here? Could you imagine if, well, this isn't mine. So you see a bunch of copy of and stuff like that. I would go nuts if this was my account. I name things very specific. You see here, webinar example, Orchids Made Easy. That is, to me, key to this whole thing is to be very specific. So what do I call it again? Webinar example, Orchids Made Easy. So I know now that this is the sample example that we'll be using every time we come and play with this thing in these webinars, right? You guys would never, I could go turn this into marketing tomorrow and send it out to you, and you would never know that that was the name of it, unless you're obviously on the webinar and you saw me name it that way. So, again, a little bit of cheating here. I've gone ahead in advance and put some of this stuff in, but I think you guys will totally agree that it's easier to lay this stuff out here and in line, right? Now, I mean, I know if I go in here, you know, if I want to go to the welcome page, I type all my welcome page stuff in here before I go trying to paste it all into Bucket, right? Does this make sense why you would want to use a form like this first? Kind of get your stuff in. Sure, you won't be able to really test how it looks, but, you know, just basic HTML always looks the same. So you can kind of come in here, play with it, and then go paste it in, and then maybe play with it a little bit inside of Bucket. Is this making sense? All right, I'm coming back over to the questions. Fiona says, Jeremy, can you share this Google Doc, please? I was about to make one. I will absolutely share this out. In fact, I've got a blank one. I've already kind of played with this one a little bit, so I'll give you guys a blank one that you can have for yourself. Debbie asked, do we need to be able to add in the HTML tags? Yeah, and again, you can just do this in here. You can go to YouTube, paste in your iframe stuff. all the stuff you can do. It's real simple. And it's a million times easier to do it in here, I promise you, than inside a bucket. Trust me, I've done both. And I always like just having this here where I can, kind of play with the size of it. You can change the size, mess with it, and then when you're done, come back and draw it down. You really can't do that. If you've never played with it inside a bucket before, I'll show you the difference. So number one, this is all in one spot. Like literally scroll down to get to each one. In bucket, you have to kind of bounce around, go inside, click on stuff, wait for it to load, type it into these little tiny boxes over here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is not the world's most fun place to play, right? Easy, but easier, right? Anyways, Debbie, it doesn't matter if you know HTML tags. You absolutely do not have to use them. You only have to, if you want to kind of play with it a little bit, you can. I would never tell you go learn HTML just to do this. You don't need it. You'll see. If I took these out, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that big of a difference. So you do not have to go learn HTML tags just to use this. All right. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys here is real simple. Like I said, you can put your content in, kind of get it ready to go, and then you can come in and start adding your quiz questions in, right? So you've got question name. If you're using Zapier, if you're using anything besides currently Infusionsoft, MailChimp, or Entreport, you'll be using Zapier. So you can go ahead and put your Zapier tags in here, add your question stuff in, add your options in, and we can go ahead actually and do that right now, just so you can so you can see it. So I think this was getting orchid to bloom again, saving my sick or dying orchid, and just so you can see how I would fill this out is getting my orchid to bloom again, and then oops. What I'm doing here is I'm copying. Or see where it says copy, paste fields 1 through 4 for each question you have, but also for, oh, actually, you know what? That's not what I would do. I would just go ahead, get a marker to bloom again, just put it inside here. Saving my sick or dying orchid. Anyways, you get the point. I'm just going to type that in. And then we will put the rest of our options in here. Okay? And then that way, later on, when we're going in and building this inside of Bucket, all we have to do is come back over here and copy this stuff and paste it. The same thing with the lead capture stuff. So when we're ready to add our lead capture pages in, we'll go ahead, put our copy in over here. As you can tell, like I said, cheater Jeremy went and got this stuff and already has it put in here, but the concept is completely duplicatable by you guys. So you would just come in, put your stuff in here, and then we'll go in and do some outcome pages here in a second. So is this making sense to everyone so far still? Good. Awesome. Catherine has a question. I haven't acquired an email marketing system yet, so what is a Zapier tag? The Zapier tag, okay, and I don't want to get into Zapier too much on this call because we are definitely, as a part of building a funnel from scratch, obviously connecting it to an email marketing service is going to be in there. Zapier tag, Zapier is the service that connects your Bucket to your email marketing system. And the Zapier tag is what Bucket tells Zapier to send over to your email. So when you're generating your leads, in this case here, if somebody wants to get their orchid to bloom again, we want to attach that to the lead, right? And so what the Zapier tag would do is tell your marketing service, hey, Jeremy with Jeremy at bucket.io also needs help saving his sick or dying orchid, right? If that's the answer that I chose when I was going through and answering these questions. So that's how the Zapier tag works, and that's how the Zapier works. So I should sign on with Zapier or the others you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, probably if you don't have an email service yet, I would not recommend going and getting a full-blown Entreport or Infusionsoft, which are the two big ones that we use. You could do MailChimp, but I've just heard so many nightmares about MailChimp. I would say use Zapier and then maybe something like Drip or Active Campaign. But I'm sure there's somebody on here that would just rather say do a direct integration with those two. I'm saying out of the email services that I would choose from starting up from scratch, it would be an Active Campaign or Drip, something like that. You're absolutely welcome. All right, so now I want to walk you guys through a little bit of one more section here before we actually dive into Bucket, because I have a feeling, it's only 4:30 right now, I have a feeling we're going to make our way into Bucket today, so that's exciting. But let's talk about this section here, this outcome pages, because what I'm going to be doing on here is for this demonstration, for this example, for this funnel that we're building, we're going to be using external sales pages, all right? And the reason why is because he hasn't built, right? He's got the pages already built where he makes the pitch for buying the membership program based on the different angles that we get when we're going through here. So we're going to add some outcome pages here. We're going to base it off of these. So we've got getting the orchid to bloom again is one. Orchid to bloom again. And let me ask you guys, since we're doing this, do you guys like this idea of going through here and building this thing from scratch? Or just kind of give me your thoughts on it so far. Like, as we've kind of been going, does it feel like I'm getting too repetitive? Do you want me to have more done? What are your thoughts here? Or do you like actually building it as we go? Again, remember guys, we're doing this like for the very first time. So I am all about getting your feedback as we go. So I got a vote for build from scratch as we go. Got an ask the question again. What I'm asking is just, do you like how we're doing it so far? Me kind of building this thing as we go. All right, building from scratch, building from scratch. Guys, who am I to argue? You like building from scratch, then that's what we're going to do. So what I'll do here in a second, I'll go in, because I do have it built. I'm going to go grab these URLs here in a second. But what I want to do is I want to show you how it, again, this is how I would do it. Literally, if you were paying me to come build something for you, this is exactly how it would look. This is my process. Go in, draw it out, come in here, build out the copy, and then none of this would be taking place inside a Bucket until we had this stuff done. All right. So this is literally how a pro, I think, sets up a segmentation funnel that they could roll out into Bucket. Yes, I can share all this stuff out. Everything that you see here, I'll be giving links to it. So, like, yeah, for this build out, this pre-written questions, I've definitely, you guys will get links to all this stuff here. And if you want, you can certainly have access to this thing too. So just so you can have it, and maybe it'll give you get your juices flowing for some of your own ideas. Yep, perfect. All right. So we do have one person who is voting to go straight into Bucket. This is confusing. Again, we will there. So here's the thing, and this is going to you, Mason. We will be in Bucket. This webinar is literally about planning it out before we go dive into Bucket. And so, in fact, we're almost done. Let me just do this. Why don't we go and we'll do one more outcome page. Again, just so you can see it happening. This is what I would be doing. Saving my Zapier Tag Orchid. Let me just jump back over here. Because I agree. I agree with everyone here. For those of you saying, let's do it all from scratch, I totally agree with that. And for those of you saying, hey, I just want to see how it does it in Bucket. Use a Bucket. This is a Bucket webinar. I want to see it. Totally agree with that as well. And we're definitely, since we have a little bit of extra time, I think we will be able to go and at least start creating this thing inside of Bucket. So why don't we do this? Why don't I just do this one last one, saving my sick or dying orchid. Just again, just so I had it, all right? All right, and I'm not going to get into any of this design stuff. This is going to be for a future. This is going to be for a future webinar because we're going to go through the entire gamut, every single section of Bucket's going to get covered in this series. This one today, like I said, is the planning and the build stage. All right. So again, everyone who loves this part that we're doing right now, I'm glad you're here. Everyone who kind of wishes I would hurry up and get to the Bucket part, I appreciate your patience. Let's just say that. Awesome. All right. Okay, so here I am now. Let me back out of this because I don't want to. This is where I don't see. This is where part where I don't want to confuse you. As I said before, I've got this thing totally built out. But here's what I want to do. I want to walk you guys through the entire process of building from scratch. Okay. And so what we're doing here, what I'm doing for this segmentation funnel, like I told you before, this is going to be a full pager. We're going to run the entire campaign. Traffic, everything is going to go through Bucket, the app. We may end up doing, I may do a custom URL later, but for now, we're going to be just doing full page, welcome page, all the way to the final part of the quiz before we send them off to the external is going to be through Bucket. So I'm going to choose full page here, all right? And what did we say the public name is going to be? Webinar example. I'm going to jump back over here. I'm going to paste this in. Put a dash in there because I think I built one out. All right. And I'm going to hit continue. And here we are, blank screen, okay? Now, remember, we're going to be hosting the welcome page in Bucket. So I'm going to create a welcome page, okay? But you know what? Before I do that, because I don't want to break my own rule. Does everybody know my rule for building these things? Start with the outcomes. In fact, you really can't build a good segmentation funnel if you don't have the outcomes. That's why it's so important to start with them, okay? So always come down and hit your outcomes first. Even if you have all this stuff in there, I always say start the outcomes first, just so you can have, this is the most important part, where they go after they take the quiz, right? That's where the money's made. And so we're going to start here. So I'm going to jump over here, and my outcome pages are getting my orchid to bloom again. Now, if you're doing Zapier, I do want to point this out, and we'll talk about this in detail in one of our future segments on this series. What I love about the Zapier tag for the outcome pages is, honestly, if this was the only place you put a Zapier tag, this is the most important one. This is the one where you can tell your email service, hey, this is the outcome this person got. So you'll have name, or at the very least, you'll have email address and outcome. And you'll be able to use that to segment your marketing from here on. As I showed you earlier, we've got a ton of other stuff we definitely want to send to our email service provider. But at the very least, you always want to do a Zapier tag. If you're using Zapier, a tag on your outcomes. So we'll call this Bloom outcome. And remember I told you before, we're going to be doing external redirects. And I don't have those links right off. I'm going to have to grab those in a second. But I'm just going to hit save. I think you have to put something in there. And then I'm going to copy. This is how I would do it. Again, if I was doing this for you, you're literally seeing what I would be doing. I would make the first one, and then I would come over here and I would make the copy. I would change this one to saving my sick or dying orchid. I would change this to sick outcome, be a external redirect, and then I copy it again. And this one, since we wanted to just kind of hurry up and get into bucket, this one would say potting or transplanting my orchid. All right. Does everybody get what I'm doing here? And make sure everybody is all on the same page. You guys get what I'm doing? So what I do is I make one, I copy it, and then I just swap out the outcome name. Okay, cool. And what I would also be doing, and I need to go grab these links, and I probably, honestly, at the end of the day, I should have already had them, but what I'll do is I'll go grab them, and then we'll put them in here so you guys can see how it works. So before we get off here, I will go grab those because I do have them in another thing. But I just, like I said, I wanted to kind of get in here and start building with you guys. So I saved that one, and then we've got, I believe, one more. It was 4 total, and that's learning the basics of orchid care. And so come back over here, copy, and then we'll just call it basics of orchid care. All right. And so now what I have is an outcome page for each one of my outcomes. So what's going to happen here is we're going to go grab these links here in a second, and then we're going to put those in, so we're going to redirect to these specific pages. Okay? So now the next step is adding the lead capture pages for each one. Because I think someone actually asked about how do we do a custom lead capture page. And the way we do that is like this. I'm going to drag this one in, and I'm going to assign it. So here's what I'm doing. I just added a lead capture page. It automatically pops this up. And so what I'm doing now is I'm going to assign an outcome to it. So for this one, we'll do getting my orchid to bloom again. Okay? And then what I can do over here is, since I've already built all this stuff, right, I can come over here, and do I have that one? Yep. So it looks like I didn't do all of them. I just added one. So let's do this. To rebloom, even if it looks like a dried out stick. See the beauty of having this stuff in here? Let's see. Looks like I might have done something funky with the HTML. There we go. Oops. And a lot of times it won't automatically refresh. We'll have to save it. But that's the beauty of already having the stuff in here. So we'll come back over here, copy that, and I'm going to paste that here. And I'm going to turn off the image video. I'm going to turn off, oh wait, leave that on. I'm going to turn off the body text. I'm going to turn off name. I'm going to leave email. I'm going to turn off all this other stuff. And then I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to paste that right in here. And then I'm going to turn this off. Save page. Go look at this again just to make sure. I did something wonky with this HTML. This is where you kind of want to, again, even if, oh, that's why. See that? So now it kind of starts looking right. And this probably isn't exactly how I want it, but you get the idea. So you can come in here and play with it once you've put it in. And so I'm going to hit Save Page, and now let me make sure there's questions. All right, I see some of these questions. I'm going to come back to them in a second. But what I'll do here is I'll add one of these lead capture pages for each one of these. And again, the big idea here is selecting this outcome, saving my sick or dying orchid, and I'll turn off all this stuff. Somebody asked, why do I turn this stuff off? A lot of this stuff you're not ever going to need. Like in our case here, we didn't need the body text. We didn't really want to ask the name. All we're looking for is the email and the phone number, and so we turn everything else off. The button's always going to be the same. But what the big thing here is that we're attaching, here, let me do it one more time so you guys can see it. What we're doing here is we're selecting an outcome, and so what happens is this lead capture page, it shows up in front of that outcome. So when they choose the outcome, they're going to get this lead capture page first. And what we're going to do is we're going to customize the copy for each of these lead capture pages, so that so that we can get them to actually opt in, because we're addressing their specific problem on the opt-in screen. Turn this off. Off. Yes. Turn that off. And a lot of this stuff, I mean, you might turn it on, you might decide you want to leave it off. It just depends on you. And I'm just, again, the whole idea here is to walk you guys through this so you can see every aspect of it. So you can see what happens when someone who is doing this is actually going through and setting it up. All right. So there we have it. So now we have our outcome pages and the lead capture pages that go with each one of these. And what's cool is you'll always know which lead capture goes to which outcome, because it'll tell you right here. So lead capture page number 1 goes to outcome A, getting my orchid to bloom again. So when I go in and edit this copy, I'll be doing it for the reblooming, the bloom again outcome, right? I'm going to discard the changes. Same thing with this lead capture page here. It's going to go with saving my sick or dying orchid. This lead capture page is attached to C, potting or transplanting my orchid. Same thing here. Outcome D, the basics of orchid care. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin each of these landing pages. Hey, guess what? I'm going to send you the best email on whatever this outcome is, saving your sick or dying orchid. Hey, I'm going to send you the world's greatest email about the basics of orchid care, whatever freebie thing. And then on this outcome page, I'm going to say, hey, great, good job. You got check your email here in a second. But hey, while you're here, you think if you really, really, really want to, make your orchid bloom again, you got to get this thing. You guys, are you following this process of why we're setting this up this way? Yep. Yes. So yeah, Rita asked, why was I turning all that stuff off? And just it's stuff you're not going to need every single element on that page every single time. Diane asked, do I have to know some HTML before doing the headlines? The answer to that's honestly it's no. Let me show you what would happen if you didn't put any HTML on this stuff, just so you can see what it looks like. So you see where it says, how do you get your orchid to bloom? If I just flat out didn't want to do HTML, here's what it would look like. Put a period there, and you can do something like this. You wouldn't have to do any HTML here at all, but you could. And just so you know, we have these little cheat codes up here, right? So you can see, oh, I want to bold it. Well, you find out what you want to bold, and you go stick this B in front, and the B and the / B in front of it, right? Kind of like how we did. See how simple that is? And you've got these little cheats up here, so if you wanted to go kind of play with it a little bit, just so you guys know, they are definitely working on like a 2017, builder, right? So that you guys can drag and do these things and stuff. So we're not going to be doing this, 1998 called and they want their HTML back. And I say this with the recorder on, they're definitely going to put that thing in there so that you guys can do this stuff graphically, okay? That's right. It's all super simple once you've kind of figured out and played with it a little bit. All right. All right, so now what we've done, I mean, and honestly, for most of you guys, because I've talked to probably most of you on the phone, the hardest part is literally this part, right? Is getting your outcomes figured out, getting this stuff tied together. The rest is honestly pretty simple, especially if we've already plugged the stuff in here, which we have. So we've got, our question. And we could do, I'll do one, we've got time to probably do one of these questions. What we're going to do, we're going to pick up where we left off next time, or I want to do the mapping on this so you guys can just see it. Because if some of you are building between now and next week, I want you to at least be able to do this one part. So we've got the welcome page content up here, but then we've got this when it comes to caring for your orchids, what is your biggest challenge? And I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to paste that in. And then I'm just going to go in and add each of these options. And I should have these memorized, honestly. Getting orchid to bloom again. I literally just copied that. I'm just going to type this in because I just know it. Saving my sick or dying orchid. And one thing you can do, just so you guys know, is if you're going to be adding, you can hit the Enter key and it'll automatically add one in. What was the other one? Potting or transplanting my orchid. And the last one, what was the actual question? Learning the basics of orchid care. All right. And make it required, hit save. And now we've got ourselves a question. All right. And so really quick, before we go, I want to show you guys, and we're going to cover this in more detail. We're going to pick this part back up again. Again, I hate throwing probably the most important part of the application in at the end, because again, this was about building out or building the skeleton and the planning of the segmentation funnel but we got about 5 minutes here, and I think this is a good spot. This is going to be a good spot to stop, but I will walk you guys through this mapping just because, again, this is probably the single most important part of the application, right? And that is, how do we get the person to the right outcome, the right sales pitch, the right list, the right opt-in screen by their questions that they are answered. And the way we do that is we highlight over the segmentation question. Remember, we mapped out over here our segmentation question. The one that's going to determine what outcome they get is on this one right here, this what's your biggest challenge. We're going to come up here and we're going to map these questions to their outcomes. And the way you do that is you highlight over the question itself, and you see this little funnel. You're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up this screen that says, hey, if answer is getting my orchid to bloom again, then map to outcome, getting my orchid to bloom again. Saving my sick or dying orchid to this outcome. Potting to this outcome. Learning the basics of orchid care to the basics of orchid care outcome. And also, guys, just so you know, if, like you see some of these are cut off, what you can do is kind of highlight over it, and it'll tell you the full outcome. So if you're over here like, oh, getting my, like, let's just say you had getting my orchid to do one thing, getting my orchid to do another thing, just highlight over it, and it'll give you the full name. And then what you do is you just save this, and we'll just do a quick preview just so you can see getting my orchid to bloom again, how to get your orchid to rebloom. And then you just put in your test little email here. And, oh, well, we actually, we didn't put the URLs in. But what it would do is it would have taken them to the URL that we put in here. And so next week, guys, what we'll do is we're going to walk through this part again probably, just to kind of catch everyone up to speed. We'll walk through, we'll get all these URLs in, we'll add all the questions in, and I'm thinking what we'll do next week, we'll do finish off the builder, go into the design phase is, I think, going to be the big part of next week. So we're going to add a welcome screen. We're going to add questions. We're going to do all the prettying up, and we're going to make this thing look amazing. And then the week after, we'll go into the configure and do all the cool configure stuff. Does that sound like a plan to everyone? Yep, I got a couple of yes. Yes, all right, good. Okay, good. Does anyone feel like that's too slow? Like, does anyone feel like, you know, can you just do one where you just build the segmentation funnel out all in one fell swoop, have everything together? Because we could do both, I think. I think what we could do, one thing we were thinking, because what we've done in the past is we've done,